Is it a cinematic sensation? Is it a masterpiece of animation? Or a terrible train wreck, the Jambareeqi check? If a movie needs an exorcism, he'll smite the demon with criticism. If it deserves attention, he'll give it a heartfelt mention. A strawberry rating 1 to 5. Jambareeqi reviews.
Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Rock and Roll was actually Canada's first ever English-speaking animated feature, but when it was released it was a box office disaster. Some people have said that it was a flop because adult animation was dying out at the time, but others have concluded that it failed because it wasn't a very good movie in the first place. What do I think? Well, let's find out. In this sci-fi musical set in a dystopian future, a rock band made up of 4 musicians called Omar, Angel, Stretch and Dizzy are struggling to make it big. One day, famous rock star Mock seduces Angel into becoming a part of his upcoming act, which will involve making her perform a song that'll unleash a powerful monster from another dimension. It's up to the rest of the band to save Angel and stop Mock's evil plan. Before I begin, I want to make it clear that I'm reviewing the original Canadian version of this movie, and not the American recut titled The Ring of Power. However, the Canadian cut is in very poor quality on the DVD. I think it's a VHS transfer, so for the most part I'll be using clips from the US version while I talk about the film, so you don't get an eyesore while watching this video. This is one of those films where the story comes second to style and aesthetics. While the movie is interesting to look at, its story is uncreative, unoriginal, and not even well told. With not much for these musicians to do until Mock can successfully unleash the beast, we're just watching our heroes trying to find each other, as Mock monologues about his evil plans in his lair. The film has nothing unique to say either, providing the generic messages of the music industry can be exploitative, and it's hard for rock bands to get along and become famous. Maybe some people can read more into the film's story, but I fail to notice anything remarkable about the movie's intentions on a deeper level. To keep things entertaining, the film attempts to stay consistently active by making characters move or talk all the time, which does make the film overwhelming to keep up with, like we're being told a tale by some whacked out crackhead. It's hard to emotionally connect to a film that has pacing this obnoxious and fast. It's weird how juvenile this film gets too. It obviously wants to target an adult audience with its references to drugs, the occult and sexuality, but it keeps throwing in wacky silly antics, the kind you'd expect from a Saturday morning cartoon show for kids. The movie is too dark and mature for children, while adults will just find the goofy humour to be too infantile for them. Also, this post-apocalyptic setting is barely explored. Sure, the camera will often pan across grim futuristic backgrounds, but that doesn't really help as we don't get to know the society very well, and the tacked-on opening narration doesn't add much. Yeah, we get faint ideas about what kinds of things exist in this universe, but we're still uncertain about the overall landscape. What's considered normal here? How do the citizens feel about living here? How is this world different to our own besides having fancy advanced gadgets? These characters are humanoid descendants of animals. What does that mean for them? We don't really get clear answers to these questions, so we can't fully immerse ourselves in this story's world, and the film's creative choices come off as purely superficial. In spite of all these glaring issues though, I can't say that this film ever gets boring. As shallow as it is, there's plenty of psychedelic visuals and strange science fiction technology to keep our eyes on the screen. This is a very busy movie, but the plus side to that is that the animation is always presenting some new weird imagery on screen. It's like we're watching a series of trippy music videos while taking heavy amounts of exotic drugs, and it's so far out, man. I'm going to give 3 points to the content. Omar is a very unlikable hero. He's self-absorbed, bad-tempered, whiny, and never consistent about his feelings. Sometimes he gives a shit about Angel, but then seconds later, he's back to being a grumpy bum. I can tell that the film is trying to make him this cheeky anti-hero, but he's not funny or charming enough to pull off this persona. He's just a dick. Angel may be a talented singer with a strong, defiant attitude, but she isn't the brightest bulb in the box, considering how easily she warms up to Mog when she first meets him. She's immediately enamored by him, even though his villainy is about as subtle as a plane crash. Even after seeing his true colours as a sinister dark magician, Angel still decides to touch a pretty flower he offers her without any hesitation. And this is what leads her to becoming his prisoner. Maybe that flower is supposed to be magically hypnotic, but the scene goes by so fast that it's hard to tell if that's the case. I also don't get what she sees in the narcissistic Omar. He's so passive-aggressive towards her that I'm surprised that she's not dumped him yet. Dizzy is the voice of reason throughout the film, but he comes across as so whiny. Yeah, he's being well-meaning and sensible, but there's only so much neurotic lecturing I can take from him. Stretch serves as a kooky comic relief character, and you know how I said that the film is very active? Well, he's one of the giddiest characters in the film. I found his constant attempts at being funny and nervous simpering to be rather irritating. Mog is a really fun villain. He's entertainingly flamboyant and campy, always putting on a fabulous presentation, even in the most casual of situations. But Mog's motives are all over the place in this film. Sometimes it's about boosting those album sales, other times he just wants to convince the public that his magic skills are real. But when he finally unleashes the demon, he shouts something about revenge and orders the monster to destroy everyone? Mog, how are they going to buy more albums and have a better opinion of your magic abilities if they're all dead? Mog doesn't even seem to need that much more than he already has. Despite having declining album sales, he still gets gigs, he still lives in an amazing mansion that he's not been kicked out of yet. His name is plastered everywhere, his presence in this world is so huge that people believe that he can see and hear them. And even when the news reports that he's ended up killing people, no law enforcement are sent after him, and no legal claims are made against him. So he can get away with murder. Mog, what do you want? Mog's minions are the noisiest and silliest characters in the film. I found them to be quite annoying at times, because they're always excitedly moving about, fighting or yapping away. I did like Zip though, he's adorably childlike and the only brother with a conscience. He even questions the morals of Mog's scheme at one point, making the villain grasp straws to defend his lack of ethics. Heck, by the end, Zip becomes a more likeable and endearing hero than Omar. I'm going to give 2 points to the characters. The animation for this movie is very fluid. You can totally tell that the animators put loads of time and effort into the line consistency. However, like I said, this is a very busy and noisy movie, so expect characters to wildly express themselves constantly, as if they think pausing, slowing down, or being quiet are illegal crimes in this futuristic dystopia. As impressive as the animation is on the surface, when you start to realize how excessive the movement is, it does become a little grating. This is extra distracting when characters pull unintentionally off-putting or dumb-looking faces. Although, when the visuals get trippy or psychedelic, that's when the animation is at its best. There's so many creative and strange images in this film. Ones that demonstrate huge artistic merit and a sense of boundary-breaking imagination. I'm going to give 4 points to the animation. Greg Salata voices Omar. His thick New York accent really suits the surly personality of Omar. There's some urban savviness to the way he delivers his lines.
I trusted you, you jerk!
Yeah. You were good tonight. You were good.
So why'd you walk?
Sometimes I walk, sometimes I talk.
Susan Roman voices Angel. She sounds very vigorous and tenacious as a promising rock star.
You'll never see that demon! I'm the one with the voice, and I'm not going to sing!
Shut up.
And without me, you're nothing. You're
Shut
a
up.
fraud, Mark!
Shut up!
What? No, Hocus pocus!
Don Franks is Mog. He has this gravelly, deep voice that makes Mog sound incredibly sinister. Every time he talks, your spine might tingle.
Ah, sweet angel. You look even more beautiful in person than on stage.
Dan Hennessy gives a very nasally voice to Dizzy, which certainly suits the character's personality and design, but it's also the main reason why Dizzy's whining is quite aggravating.
Ooh, excuse me, but could you put me down? Hello? Hello? Anyone in there? Ouch! Oh, so you want to play rough, eh? Oh! That's what I was afraid of. These hands are lethal weapons.
Greg Duffel voices both Stretch and Zip. While I think his voice for Stretch is aggravatingly over the top,
My wheels! My voltage wagon!
Hey, Stretch, dehydrate.
he definitely brings some endearing humanity to the innocent, youthful Zip.
Toad, we ain't evil, are we?
Don't talk now, Zip.
I'm going to give 3 points to the voice acting. Because this film is a rock opera, the soundtrack is laced with 80s era hard rock music, and it's pretty awesome. Patricia Cullen's original score uses thumping synths, ethereal ambience, and shredding guitar to perfectly capture the cyberpunk dystopia of this movie. The juxtaposition of Cullen's music against the dark, futuristic backgrounds is a brilliant blending of mediums that adds some atmosphere to the film's bleak world and theatrical presentation. This film is also a musical, featuring original songs by Debbie Harry, Iggy Pop, Lou Reed, Cheap Trick, and Earth, Wind and Fire. While these songs are good, and I am a fan of some of these artists, most of them didn't really stick with me. They just didn't speak to me on a level where they became something beyond listenable entertainment. Perhaps they'll hit you in a special place, but for me, the only song I even remember is I Am Mog, a catchy villain number that fits Mog's flamboyant sense of theatrics fantastically. I'm going to give 4 points to the music. On the one hand, I get why Rock'n'Roll was a box office flop. Its story is very uncreative, it has nothing uniquely profound to say about the music industry, its sense of humour is really obnoxious, and its heroes can be pretty unlikable or annoying. On the other hand, I understand why this film has gained a cult following. It's a campy, retro 80s sci-fi movie with a fun villain, awesome rock music, ominous atmosphere, and some trippy visuals. Despite my problems with it, I had a reasonably good time watching this film. Rock'n'Roll has gained a total of 16 points, which translates to 3 1/4 headbanging strawberries out of 5. If you enjoyed such films as Heavy Metal or Yellow Submarine, then I think you might like Rock'n'Roll. I'd just like to point out that the graphics for this video were produced by Toongrin. If you'd like to request commissions from them, here's their website on screen. I've been Jambareeqi and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you're already subscribed, then don't forget to press the bell next to the subscribe button to keep notified about my new videos. Also, please consider supporting my channel by making a monthly pledge to my Patreon in return for awesome rewards. Thank you. A big shout out to my newest patron, Isaiah Montfell-Cohen. You are awesomely fantastic. So, what am I going to be reviewing in the next episode of this show? Well, I'm quite certain that a lot of you are very excited about a sequel coming to cinemas next month. A sequel to a particular animated superhero film? Oh yes! Strap on your masks, because we're going to be talking about Pixar's The Incredibles in the next episode of Jambareeqi Reviews. Cheerio, folks.